We're leaving the plains and heading to the moon. Join us as we talk about one of our favorite designers' new game, Skymines.
Welcome to Bad at Board Games.
He's bad at board games.
I am.
He is.
I'm Brad Lake.
I'm Toph Ferguson.
And we're bad at board games, so you don't have to be. Today, we're going to be talking about
Alexander Pfister's new game, Skymines.
Pretty cool.
Yes.
It's in space.
It is in space. So this game is designed by Viktor, Kobilke, and Alexander Pfister, and it is published by Pegasus Spiele.
Stick around to the end so you can find out what our BGG rating is, what our value rating is, and we talk about a little bit about the mechanics. And at the end, you can kind of decide, is this for you? So, theme. What is the theme of this game?
So in Skymines, we are kind of picking up on what you might say is a failed attempt of the world government to harvest the moon and the stars for resources. So we are heading out as corporations and private investors. We are mining for resources, investing in companies, kind of building up a little bit of a stock in various companies in order to be able to gain the most amount of money and win the game.
Yep. And the appearance of the board, I like it. I mean, it's not over the top, but it's colorful and it communicates what you need to do. You may not realize it at first because there's a lot going on with the board and the setup, but when you start to look at things and realize that, like, oh, to move from this space to this, I have to spend 2 resources because there's 2 lines there. It communicates easily. When you're trying to get more technology, you can easily see them and what they are and how they have to come out. The board kind of like walks you through some of these things. So I think the appearance is pretty nice. You know, it's, nice sci-fi on one side of the back of the cards and decent, graphics on the other side of the cards. And you're just talking cubes, and those are the resources you have to play out. And they give you, wooden pieces for the mine companies that you're using. And all in all, I think it's well done. I really liked these. So you talk about organization. People need to look to this game for organization. This can't be that expensive. These little boxes came flat.
Yeah.
And I had to make them, which at first I was kind of like annoyed. But then after I've made them, they're great. Like, if you can't afford thermal formed box organization, give me these.
Yeah, tuck boxes. I think a lot of people hate on tuck boxes, or maybe they don't even think about them. I've made them myself out of cardboard just for games, but to have a company put that in the box really helps.
And they're nice. They like, this is the orange player stuff, and then this is the yellow corporation. I guess getting into positives, I'm not trying to go there, but like in the appearance and in the, just being able to play it and pull it out and make it a little bit easier to accessibly get to the table. I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, I think that's good. I will say I thought the board was overly busy the first time we played it. Your comment makes complete and total sense. The board walks you through it, tells you what you need to do, but be prepared the first time you look at it. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. But as you walk through it, you start to understand it and you can read it, right? So it's like trying to learn a foreign language sometimes, but after it starts to come to you and you can understand the icons. I don't think the icons are too small. They're easy to pick out and across the table. Some of the technology cards, you may, like Toph sitting here, probably wouldn't be able to see what these are, but they have to be small and fit on your player board. So, and you do get a nice little, I'm gonna put stuff off, get a nice little player board, tableau. It's got 2 sides. A lot of different ways to play this game because you have 2 sides to everything, and then you can. I'm jumping around. So anyway, what's the mechanics, Toph?
So largely, this is an economic game, but I will go ahead and say it does have variable player powers. You mentioned a little bit of replayability and different sides of the board, so you can have very different games one game to the next. And that's something that I do like in games, especially heavier weight games, the ability to have something completely different one time to the next. I know in the games that I've played, it was night and day. The first time we played versus the next time we sat down to play, it was a vastly different game for me. So, you know, that is definitely something that you'll notice. That's not a mechanic, but the variable player powers, that definitely is. Largely, it's economics. So you are exploring this map. It's not really so much to explore, but to be able to take out the mines and actually kind of develop or pick up the resources that's in the game. As you do that, you're going to be getting new things to be able to play with. You're going to be unlocking a player board that's going to give you a little bit of an engine builder-ish aspect to the game. You're going to be investing in various companies. Playing the stocks is a big part of this, so taking out stocks in various companies. The other big thing with it is the hand management side of it. And I think this is one of the things that I really enjoy about it. You have this starting deck of cards, but you're not able to play out of your hand. So you are actually programming your cards based on the unlocked board that you have, 3, 4, or 5 cards you can play at a time. And you are setting those out in unique ways. You're putting them out, you're playing them as you put them, and then you are going to discard them into various sectors at the top of your board. And that's where this actually shines. When you are able to recollect your cards, you're taking cards out of just one sector, not across all of them. So your programming has to be able to last over several rounds in order for you to be able to play efficiently.
Yep. So as we get into some of our gameplays, Toph already alluded to it. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows at the top. And if you had 5 cards in your hand and you play them, you got to do all that stuff. They all have to go into different rows now. And then at the end of your, I guess, collection turn, when everybody collects their cards, you're picking up a column, not a row. So all those cool cards you just had now got diversified out across all 5 places. So you're not, you know, like you start to figure out like, oh, I have to start building this one up for maybe the next round or the round after. And, you know, like, when do I want to do my energy round? When do I want to do my resource round? When do I want to do, you know, rush out onto the board round? It starts to be like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's also dependent on how well you are unlocking other aspects of your player board. As you are gaining your helium, as you are gaining your technology, you're going to be moving up in tracks, and as you get to a certain level, that's going to unlock another sector. So you're going to begin the game with very limited abilities. You only have 3 cards that you can put out in the sectors, but as you unlock these other aspects, you can gain the other abilities as well. So you really want to build your engine. You really want to make sure that you are managing the cards that you have in your hand, but also as you play them and discard them, so that you can then do what you need to do in terms of the economic aspect of what goes on here on this board.
Yeah. So some of our pros or some of my pros, I like, and it does feel a bit overwhelming, but there's a lot going on, right? You get bonuses based on where you're at with your stock rating within a company. You can go out and explore with different color companies, and then unlocking them will give you coins, but then going out into the areas, you know, depending on where you're mining, it's not a battle. You become dominant in that area, right? So you're going to take, if Toph is pushing stocks for the pink, and then I'm pushing stocks for the yellow, I may try to go into his spaces to then cover up some of his areas so his stock is worth a little bit less. Or, you know, he doesn't have as much explored, because you multiply the number of coins that are available for your company times the stock value. Yeah. So there's these multiplication things that you're kind of vying for, and it's not a battle. It's just like, oh, I am now the last person to have mined here, so you're not going to get as much of a multiplier as I am. But they're like this just tug of war back and forth. That's one of my positives.
Yeah. I really like the card aspect of the game. So how you buy cards, the way that they have made the costs on the cards change as you go throughout the various rounds, because the cards are going to move, and that there's going to be a multiplier there. That is something that I really enjoy. And then also how I'm going to pick up those cards and put them into my tableau. I absolutely do love that mentality of not being able to do the same actions turn after turn after turn, but having to plan far ahead, something that I really enjoy with the games, plan far ahead over multiple turns on how you're going to pick those cards back up. That's huge for me.
And, so what he's talking about, there's 12 different cards that you can buy, and they get more and more powerful as you go. So the way that they've stacked them is the weaker ones are at the top, and then you put another layer, and then another layer, and then another layer. So it's random-ish, right? But the further you go down that stack, the more powerful those cards are going to become. And as you play, you're like, oh, I'm never going to get all this unlocked. And then by the end, you're like, just like, wow, I've like maxed out this and I've maxed out that. And I never thought I would get anywhere near that. Yeah. So
there's a lot that you can do. And it happens pretty fluidly as you play the game, especially if everybody's playing on a similar level. I think maybe one of your pros goes into one of my cons, and that's if you're playing with somebody who's very take that and you are not very take that, you can see your progress taken away pretty quickly when it comes to the area control aspect of the board. That's one thing. I'm not very take that in the games. I can play take that, but that's not what I enjoy so much. So if you're that kind of person like me that would very much like the Euro aspect of you play yourself and you see how well you do, you can get a little bit of setback in it. And that can be a little bit defeating depending on how you play it. But if everybody's playing pretty evenly, you really do see a lot of things happening all of a sudden. It's not like you go from being little to all of a sudden doing everything, but you all of a sudden just realize, oh, wait a minute, I can do as much as I want. I can do a lot. Yeah. That's really cool.
And I would disagree with take that part, but it's more because you're not battling, right? I'm like, you're just trying to reduce a multiplier of somebody else. And
which
then
is very much take that. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not stealing your stuff.
You're not stealing my stuff, but you are stealing my ability to multiply out and get a lot of points.
Yeah, but that would be anybody.
Yeah.
So you can embed, like, he's not just going to play pink, right? Your stock moves up and around. So if he's like unlocking pink, I could just try to continue to increase my stock value over there. So he's not really doing himself any favors by pushing that because I have the same value of stock he does. So I'll get the same multiplier. So that like you, and that's where so much of it comes into play. You've got 4 different stocks. He doesn't own one on the company. I don't own a company. We're just trying to you're betting on these and how they come out and
investing in them.
Yeah, you're investing in them. So in that sense, it's not so much take that as it is because we could be pushing the same thing, but then we're not separating ourselves point wise. And you have your own tableau.
If we're both going for the same.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Yeah. If you want to keep from falling behind and somebody's just outperforming you, just keep betting on that stock. Right. Then they're not going to outperform you in that aspect because you've got your own tableau.
Yeah.
And then you've got the stuff out on the floor.
That's true. But if you're not doing very well in a company, you could also tank everybody else that's in it who is investing well. And so, yeah, you've got that aspect. It's not a huge part of the game, but it is definitely something that can come up.
Mm-hmm. You have any other pros?
I like the way that the awards work. I don't know if they're necessarily called awards, but they're kind of awards. In each of the rounds, you have various things that you can excel in, and that would be at the top of the board. You'll see the different tracks. If you have, for example, the most amount of one resource, you might be able to get a special benefit, and that is something that takes one of your actions. So you have to be mindful of when you're going to play that, because it's not based on what you were dealt at the beginning of the game. It's what you have in the moment. So do you want to take an award, or do you want to go ahead and use those resources to do something else before somebody goes into that spot, which would then allow them to take the reward and the benefit? So you really have this give and take in every action that you do of saying, okay, I know what I have and I know what Brad has. What is going to be my most beneficial move, as opposed to doing the other one, which is also going to give me a benefit. One of them I'm going to help myself, and one of them I might help my opponent. And so I like that, because there is a lot of thinking through not just what move do I take, but what is going to be the most efficient move to be able to progress me as best as possible in the game. So that's a big part of it. I also really do like the special cards that you'll see at the bottom of the game, or at the bottom of the board. There are special things that will pop up to be able to help you out. And if you are taking another scientist, for example, you can actually take that scientist and play it in addition to the cards you have. So it's a good way, especially in the beginning of the game, to get an extra action. You only have 3 cards you can play, but now you might have a 4th. And again, that's another one of those times that you got to weigh out. Do you want to go mining? Do you want to buy new cards? Do you want to get an award? Or do you want to try to get one of these special builds or special actions that's going to be able to come out? So, there's a lot going on. There's a good bit of AP that could pop into it, but that's a good part of a higher weight game. We love that in the Lacerda games we play. We love that in Alexander Pfister's other game that we love, Great Western Trail. That's the ability to have so many things going on all at one time is great to be able to think through. So yeah, a lot of great positives.
And this definitely does have more going on than Great Western Trail. By far.
I would say so. Yeah, I would say so.
You just have a gas track where you can mine gas or get more there. You have a technology track where you're trying to upload technologies, which is more difficult than even the gas side of things, right? And then, the energy, like there's a lot going on here. There just really is. So that could be a con for you. That could be a pro. I kind of like it. And, the theme, I like space. Take that for a grain of salt. I'm biased to most things that are in space. So.
See, in space, which is weird because my favorite game is Terraforming Mars. Definitely space, definitely sci-fi, but sci-fi doesn't do it for me so much as other themes. So
yeah, but I like it. So what are some of your cons?
Well, like I said, I think one of the cons is, depending on how you play and other people play, you may get caught up in this idea of building out what's best for you and then feel some of that kind of ripped away from you. And that's a part of the game. That's not saying that that's something that somebody's playing wrong. It's just something you need to keep in mind, that you need to make sure you're balancing out your stocks and not putting all your eggs in one basket, for lack of a better term. So that's definitely one of the negatives that I have. It's a little fiddly, I would say, and how you are expanding out. You're using these pieces here, which are giving you a benefit as you uncover certain things. You're moving out to the board, you're putting them where you need to go standing up, and then as you take your action, you're folding them over. And there's a lot of little fiddly things that are going on in the game. That can be a negative at times. It takes a little bit of time to set up, and as you go, you got to make sure you're keeping up with all these little things. And so that's something, just keep that in mind as you go. Be mindful of the board and all of the components that are on it.
One of my cons would be this, so we'll get to the weight and Toph will talk about that, but this is not going to be an easy game to table or to have a group. You have to have the heavy gamers will like this. Like medium plus gamers won't. This is solidly in a heavy, on the heavy side. And just in that nature, you're going to eliminate a lot of people that want to play these kind of games. Just in that nature of 3 hours, and maybe get this to 2.5 hours because there's 7 rounds. But I believe I played it in 2, but we were moving, right? And I didn't get anywhere near the score I got when we played it. But, we thought more, we thought deeper. And like I said, that 3-hour game felt like 2 hours. So if you like thinking and you're thinking while somebody else is doing their turn, time's probably going to fly by. But a con is this is going to be harder to get to the table with some people.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's going to be daunting the first time you play. Maybe not if you are used to the heavyweight games, but definitely if you are teaching it and then taking it to a gaming group to be able to teach, be prepared, because it's not going to be something you can teach right away and sit down and play well. It's going to take a game of figuring things out before you can sit down and be efficient with it, which, like we said, we like the heavyweight games, but this is going to be a hard one to probably bring into a gaming group. So yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Any other cons that you have?
You could almost say there's too much going on.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I was surprised how it all came together at the end, right? Like, most of the games I played, I haven't been able to max out both tracks. And I was able to, I think I maxed out both tracks on my tableau when we played. Now I didn't win because the multiplayer's on the stocks, but like there's a lot you can do. And, having to think 2 or 3 turns ahead ish, you're not going to be able to plan your turns out, but, that can be a bit of a detriment sometimes too.
Yeah. And
even though I liked it.
Yeah. And it's also difficult sometimes trying to keep up with everything that you have unlocked. The companies that are around the board, while the mines are different colors, the actual boards that you are advancing, the tracks for each of the companies, the stock track, if you will, of the companies, you are unlocking abilities as you go throughout it. And you have to look at all 4 sides of the board to see if you have actually unlocked a bonus when you are playing the game. And sometimes that can be hard to, again, it's just one more thing to keep track of making sure that you're looking around everything to see, should you have gotten extra money? Should you have been able to take this action you didn't think you could and you forfeited some turns because you couldn't be able to do something up here? So, that's going to be something that you just have to train your mind to think, okay, let's look at all these companies. And then when you realize you haven't done any work on one of the companies, you got to figure out how to play catch up a little bit in those companies. Because if you are not diversifying, you're not probably going to be able to come out with a win in the game.
Yeah. So what's the weight of this?
Yeah. So we've been talking about this being on the heavier end. It is rated at a 3.72 weight, which does put it into not just medium plus, but getting into the heavier side of things. This is not the heaviest game that we have played. It's not the most fiddly game that we have played, but it definitely is up there on the heavier scale. So I think that's a positive thing, or I think that's an accurate rating. I think it could be more difficult if they needed it to be, and I'm glad they did not push the bounds with upping some of the difficulty in some of the areas. It's not over a 4. You're not getting into that Lisboa category of difficulty, but you are pushing the boundaries of coming out of medium into the heavyweight. So if you want something that's going to push the boundaries, I would start with something else. Probably not this one, because not only does it have the heavyweight, it has the fiddliness to it too. But yeah, I think it's accurate. Do you agree with that? Do you think it's?
Yeah, I think it's 3.75 ish. They could have said it was a 4, and I don't think I would have been surprised.
I agree with that.
BGG's average weighting it, right? So when you go and do it, you've got 1, 2, 3, or 4. I would have rated this a 4. So there's other people that think, oh, well, this is easy. After you play it a few times, you'll get it. But the first few times you play it, you're going to think there's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here, which is why it's a heavy game.
Yeah.
So, my value rating for this. So you can get this now, and I'm just going to say, like, I paid more than this, but right now you can get it for $45. If you can get this for $45, I think if this were $10, it'd be a 5 out of 5. And then if this was $100, well, I almost paid that. And if it was $200, it would be a 1 out of 5. How's that? When this came out, when it launched, it was a $75 game.
Yeah.
And now it's $45. And that's in 6 weeks. So when you talk about wanting something right when it comes out, holding off and seeing if it blows up on the hotness or not can really benefit you, right? But I wanted this game. I played this game at Gen Con. I would have bought this at Gen Con if they'd had it, but because of all the shipping things, they weren't able to get it. So for $45, I think this game is a 4.5 out of 5. Because there's a lot of game here. Everything to its benefit, and you can play it solo. So if you like really crunchy games solo, I haven't played it, and so I can't tell you how easy.
I didn't realize it had come down that much in cost. At $45, you're spot on. This may not be my absolute favorite game, but at $45, this is a great game.
If you like heavy games for $45,
you don't find heavyweight games for $45.
No. And the components are not like, you're getting plastic, you're getting cardboard, but it's not thin. You get
I have no issue with the cardboard in this game. No, I think
I really didn't feel like I got hosed when I bought it for $75.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for $75, it still has a pretty good rating value.
Yeah, it would have been a 3 or 2.5, honestly. But at a $45,
yeah,
I think it's a really good deal if you like heavy games.
Yeah, so. I agree with that.
So Toph, when we haven't talked about this, so what are you rating this at? What's your BGG rating at this?
I am struggling with this.
It's not his favorite.
It's not my favorite. I like it. And when the last game that we played ended, I remember thinking this is going to be a higher rated game than I thought it was going to be throughout.
So the first time versus the last time.
Well, and
it
even
moved up.
The end of the game compared to gameplay, it went up. Like when it ended and I could process what we just did, it was higher than what I thought. So my initial thought of this game was going to be 7 to 7.5.
Oh, I thought it was lower.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know he likes stinky games, but I still thought I thought I was dragging him to the table.
So to answer that, you really wanted to play this game.
Oh yeah.
And the way that he explained it to me, which is kind of how we talked about in the beginning of this game, is a sci-fi space game that's highly economic. Nothing in that appeals to me. I don't really care for the economic game so much. I enjoy that mechanic at times, but when a game is heavily economic, it's not normally something that I gravitate to or say that I really enjoy. The sci-fi theme, I need to stop saying I don't really care about it. I really don't, but I do enjoy a lot of games that have the sci-fi theme. It's an easy theme. I think you can put some great mechanics to, and I'm more of the mechanics than the theme. Mm-hmm. So, I was not as excited jumping into it. And honestly, when I said this board is overwhelming, I love heavyweight games. I love sitting down and playing the crunchy games. I like the fiddliness of games. Give me Feudum. Give me any of the Lacerdas. Give me any of these heavyweight games. I'm perfectly fine with all of that. This game, I looked at it and I was just like, I was so overwhelmed. I was like, oh my, there's so much going on. And it took me a minute to start to process it. We played it with Ashby. And during that game with Ashby, I started getting it. I started realizing, okay, there's some really good things to this. So, I don't think it would ever go for me below a 7. But I was on that 7.5. And then when I ended the last game, I wanted to give it a solid 8.
So we talked enough. I'll try to keep mine short. So my BGG rating of this, I like this game. I think it's an 8 when I get to play it. I don't think I'm going to be able to play it that often. So an 8, I want to play. I want to ask people to play, but it's a commitment, right? So it's this game from Alexander Pfister to me is heavy enough that it's in the Vito Lacerda category now, right? Like this is harder than Kanban EV, in my opinion. It's easier for us to pull out and play Kanban EV than this. We don't have to relearn Kanban every time. This would be a few plays. I like this game though. I think it's an 8. But so for me, just understand. I think it's an 8. I don't think you're going to pull it out a lot.
Yeah.
So that's an 8. Oh well, you're going to play this like a million times. No, I'm not going to play this a million times, but I'm going to enjoy playing it when I get it to the table. Anyway, we're going to keep talking a little bit too much. If you made it this far, thank you very much. We really do appreciate you. If you could hit that like and subscribe if you're not, and comment. What do you think about this? Too heavy, just bright, like the theme, don't like the theme, $45. Yep, you're going to go get it now, or you're just going to wait and maybe play it with a friend if they ever get it.
Yeah. Or is maybe heavyweight games not your thing? We don't judge. We absolutely have enjoyed, especially this month, we've played a handful of games at that medium or lower category, and I forget sometimes
2.0
how much
weight game
I love
is a
them.
blast.
Yeah, they really are. And they hit the table a lot more than the heavyweight games. So,
Exactly. So remember, no matter how you're playing, whether it's solo, with family, or friends,
enjoy whatever thinky, crunchy, heavy, or low weight games you are bringing to the table.
Thank you and have a great night.
Bye.